Good evening. It is good to see all of you. Before we begin, there are a couple of announcements. The first is that there is a need for financial support. This particular month is one of the 2 months out of the year that the foundation has to pay property taxes, which amount to $2,500. And at the present moment, those funds are not present, and they're due on the last day of the month. Also, generally speaking, over the last 3 or 4 months, there has been a very noticeable increase in the amount of support that has been coming in. And it is allowing, how shall I say it? It is allowing the foundation to pay its bills within the month that the bills arrive. And it is allowing the foundation to pay Chris for the tremendous work he is doing to maintain the website and master the audio tapes and everything he does, but it is not sufficient to free him from having to find other employment, and so we continue to be faced with the loss of his help at any moment when he finds work. And I encourage everyone who finds the work that all of us are doing valuable and who wish to see it shared to help financially. For those of you who are new here and may not be aware of it, we do have a contribution bowl over on the table at the top of the stairs. And the last announcement is that next Thursday there will be no gathering, and we will resume the following Thursday. Okay. What a week. Regardless of what any of you may think about the way everything has happened, you cannot escape being aware of joy being experienced and expressed by many, I will say, of the Iraqi people. Don't overlook that or minimize it because of what I will call your practice of faithlessness. Something more significant than just overthrowing Saddam Hussein's regime is happening. Now, before we begin, I just want to have everyone look at the dynamics. The coalition forces have moved into Iraq in the south and moved north. The end result so far has been the liberation of the Iraqi people from a harsh, hateful dictatorship. Because of the instant availability of information through the media and the availability of information from other than your usual sources, I mean by that the Al Jazeera network, other countries' documentation of the happening, you know that whatever it is that's happening is being seen in many different ways. Correct? Obviously, through different lenses, and the different lenses are what they are because of the mutually agreed upon definitions employed by those areas that are using those lenses and for the purposes of those in those areas. And the purposes in those areas are, as it is with everyone, everywhere, and every country, the maintenance of the status quo, self-protection, in other words, and the preservation of even financial security. Now, even among the Iraqi people, they are seeing this through different lenses. And it's in this respect that I want you to notice that you can find yourselves in exactly the same position. Liberation is occurring. The end of oppression, or shall I say the current regime of oppression, the ending of it is occurring. In other words, the good of the Iraqi people is in their face. Like I've said to all of you, at every single moment, the only thing confronting you is the kingdom of heaven, no matter how you are choosing to define it and therefore see it. There are others who are seeing their good as beneficial, but perhaps ultimately threatening. Is it colonialism that is occurring? Or is it really liberation? Can we trust our good? You see? You all have that problem. I keep saying, turn toward the altar. Go within and ask to be talked to by the Father so that you might experience His perspective. And some of you smile joyfully and say, okay. And others of you say, you know, this sounds really good, but I don't know if I dare to trust it because I'm not sure about the real nature of God. And we've been talking about this just in the last few weeks. The fact that it's easy to perceive God, who is indivisible, as whimsical, sometimes loving, sometimes hateful, sometimes answering your prayers, and sometimes not, without any particularly good reason, but just because. And so there is a lack of trust of your good. Now, it's obvious to most everyone that when a dictatorship ends, when the rule of a dictatorship ends, it becomes utterly obvious that all government is self-government. And this is what I've been talking about, what all of us have been considering, and that is, oh dear, this is going to bring new responsibility if I am going to choose to listen to God and yield to God. Because why? Because you're going to end up being the salvation of the world. Oh my God. Such responsibility I will have. I will have to be conscientious and unswerving in my allegiance to protecting truth by loving it so completely that I let nothing else enter my mind to distract me from truth and therefore its spontaneous embodiment. You see? There are those in Iraq who are afraid of this. I don't know if we'll be able to do it. I don't know if I want to. I've become comfortable letting someone else take care of that for me. And for all of you, it's something else that takes care of that for you, and it's your ego. You see? And so there's the tendency to be lazy and sloppy and casual about it, about your awakening, because the good that's in front of your face appears to suggest that it's going to be more work for you. Things are going to be worse than they were when you were self-satisfied, operating from within the ego's frame of reference. So, all of the dynamics of awakening are illustrated in what's going on in Iraq. The presence of the availability of freedom is being seen through many different lenses. And each one of you have many different lenses. It isn't just that one of you has a different lens from another, depending upon the circumstance. You are agreeable to awakening and listening to the Father, and in another instance you're not. It frightens you. But as with the Iraqi people, it will be worth the effort to take on the task of being self-governed. Because it will mean their ability to be free. To be free, to honestly be out from their best use of intelligence, and thus feel their integrity embodied in their land. And this is what all of you are faced with, even though there's no apparent war going on. Now, there's another aspect of this that will be helpful for you. Because if indeed you are the salvation of the world, as we've talked about the last couple of weeks, it means that you will be the liberators. And again, regardless of the opinions and biases that you have or that have been supplied to you by the media, the fact is that the liberators here have not been popular. Ooh. Does that mean that if you're going to be the salvation of the world, you might not be popular? Yes, it does. Does it mean that you may have to stand and embody the Father's perspective, the Father's will, in spite of the misinterpretations of it that will occur and which will cause you to be belittled and slandered and disliked and spoken ill of? Yes, it does. It means that you're going to have to be dedicated to truth, whether it is clearly understood for what it is or not. Why? Because you know there's nothing more important than that. You know that there is nothing more important in terms of awakening for yourself and your brothers than for you to honor truth totally from the tips of your toes. And you know what? Doing that isn't going to take courage, but daring to listen to the Father so that you are infilled with that which is to be embodied, as well as the energy to do it. That is where the effort and the work and the conscientiousness is going to have to come into play.
And that's embracing our good. And what I heard you say, that's us embracing our good.
Indeed. Indeed. Now, mind you, being the salvation of the world is not the goal. It's a side effect. It's secondary to you coming back into your right mind, because you have decided that you no longer want to be tormented and oppressed by the dictatorial regime of ignorance. Do you get that? Then, when you do that and you let the energy in, your faces and your bodies and your movements will be lit up the way the Iraqi people were, who let their joy out. And everyone will be blessed. None of what this book says and none of what we've been talking about means anything unless it brings about an actual change in you that causes you to embody something different from what you have been embodying and confirming and maintaining, because you have you have inappropriately felt vulnerable, and therefore everything you have been doing has been done for self-protection. And that's not a gift. That's something you're taking from everyone else and depleting everyone else. And what they're taking from you. Now, as we continue on week to week, during the week, please remember that it's not about remembering what we've talked about, but it is about daring to begin to practice what we've been talking about by counting it as extremely important for each of you to be connecting with your source. So that you no longer attempt to act independent of it, and thereby continue to confirm your being subject to the totalitarian, cruel results of ignorance. You could say the Course is here at this particular time as a liberator that has come into your experience. Your guides, your brothers who are fully awake, who stand at the ready with you every moment to convey to you the true vision, are your liberators. Liberation is at hand. It has been all along, but it's more obvious. Embodied in your world is more evidence of liberation and your liberators. Now, what aspect of the Iraqi society are you going to fall into relative to your liberators? Are you going to see them for what they are and grab onto them and thank them and let gratitude pour from you and let their presence cause you to dishonor the unjust laws that have bound you because you have committed yourself to mutually agreed upon definitions that don't express the Father's will? Or are you going to weigh in the balances what it's going to cost you, and what's the real motive of these liberators? Is it what they say? I mean, after all, if your guide is saying to you, let me respond to everything. Lean on me and let me respond to everything, so that in the absence of your expressing self-will, you might more quickly remember your innate capacity and ability to be the immediate expressor of the Father's will. You see, you could say, well, how do I know that I'm not listening to an evil spirit? And that if I do this and yield and let him or her respond to everything, and I in my personal sense of power back out of the picture, how do I know that I'm not going to be overtaken by this so-called guide, this one who says he's awakened? You see what I'm saying? This is the way the ego works. You know what? You're going to have to risk the chance. Because even if you yield, you don't have to abandon your intelligence. You don't have to abandon your common sense. You don't have to become stupid. You will always have the capacity to call it to a stop. But you're going to have to, nevertheless, step over the line and make commitment to your liberators so that they may show you how to be liberated within yourself as a matter of self-government. And by self-government, I don't mean what you have called self-government, which has meant being a really good ego. I mean self-government where distinctions are being made by you between truth and error, and a choice being made for truth. A distinction being made between love and hate, and a choice being made for love, so that you protect love by not indulging in anything else, by protecting truth by not expressing anything else, not being fascinated by anything else. You see? Becoming single of mind, single of intent, where there's no confusion within you. That's where the self-government comes in. Making the distinction and making the choice, and making the choice wholly. W-H-O-L-L-Y. Unequivocally and permanently. I could go on and on. I would like for you all to, let's say, do a little of your own work and consider the dynamics of what has occurred this week, and how there is transfer value regarding it and regarding you in your processes of awakening and the ego dynamics you're having to deal with. I cannot close my remarks without reiterating that to become immobilized and to take no action whatsoever until you can do it with utter spiritual perfection, even when you recognize the call for love and the call for protecting the truth of your brothers. You have seen actions take place over the past number of weeks. You have seen the embodiment of love. Do not minimize it by saying there must have been another way to do it. If another way to do it had been available, it would have been used. And everyone who has said there is another way to do it has not stated what it is, and so there was nothing to implement. And so you will find that as you allow yourselves to be the salvation of the world,